Hello everyone and welcome to another art lesson with me, Mr. Richardson. Now, I know it has been a very long time since I've put anything on my YouTube channel, so I thought it was about time to get the tripod out again and make some more art lessons for everyone. Now, I know at this point of the year, it is almost spring, hitting the end of winter, and I know that all of my spring flowers are starting to blossom in my garden. And I have picked these beautiful daffodils that are everywhere in my garden. I thought, what better opportunity than to do a drawing activity based on some natural forms. So what you will need for your activity is a piece of plain white paper and a grey lead pencil. Now, there are a couple of other options if you have these at home. A fine liner pen, or even if you've got a black biro, that will work too. And if you've got anything like coloured pencils, watercolour pencils, or watercolour paint, any of those will do, just to give your daffodil pictures a pop of colour. All right, grab your materials and let's get started. Okay, so before we get into our drawing activity, just a little bit of information, I guess, of the daffodils. So these are called trumpet daffodils. So this is your usual yellow daffodil that you'll see, and this is just a white version. It's a little bit different. The middle part's a bit more flat, and then you've got this frilled one here as well that the slugs have enjoyed having a bit of a nibble on overnight, which didn't pick it early enough. So a few of the parts that you'll see in the daffodil. So of course you've got your petals here, so curve out into points at the very, very end. And then you've got this cup part here. It's got the frilled edges. Now the inside part, you've got the stamens, which has got the little pollen parts on the inside there, and the pistil, which has got the tallest part in the very, very center. And then of course you've got the stem and the neck of the daffodil and the base of this little papery bit that opens out the flower from the inside. So I'm going to put a few different versions of the daffodils for you to copy. And if you've got your own daffodils, that's great. If you'd like to have a go at drawing your own flowers at home, that's completely okay too, but I will have these daffodil pictures on the video for you to copy to start off with. So I'm going to pick this yellow one to start off with and just put it beside me. Now, with any sketch that you want to do, my general rule is draw light until you get it right. Because if you press really heavy, it's pretty much impossible to rub out afterwards. So if you barely touch the paper, it should look like a faint shadow on the paper. And then if you make a mistake, you can always fix it up. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for you to have a go at drawing the different parts of the flower. All right, so I've got my stem, very, very skinny. Try and keep it fairly uniform all the way down. And I've got the neck part, got the brown sort of papery spathe. It's like a bit like a leaf, and it's got all these like little line markings. And then peeking out from inside is the neck of the daffodils. They've got like little rounded parts. And then I have got my petals. Now I can't actually see all of that bit there, so I could probably rub that out afterwards, but I'm just going to go around to a point for my petals. And I keep looking back and forth between the flower and what I'm drawing to see what I'm drawing is correct. So I'm looking at the middle part here. That is the cup of my daffodil. I've got another petal that sort of peeks out from this little ridge bit here, further away, and stops about there. Now, I know I'm going to rub this spathe part out here, but I know there's another petal that comes out fairly close to the bottom of the cup. So it sort of folds out like that, and then there's a bit that tucks under like that, and it just sort of flips over the inside, and then another bit there, and then of course my trumpet part is going to fill in this gap here. Now it's got this kind of interesting frilly bit, so I'm just going to do this sort of scumbling wavy pattern, and then you've got some lines that sort of follow down from the edges of those little valley parts. So where that goes down, I'm just going to continue downwards. I don't have to do it for all of it, but it kind of gives a bit more definition to the daffodil ridges, little wiggly, wavy bits, and they all sort of fall in towards the middle. And same for that, so the cup part comes here. All right, cool. So I've got my basic daffodil bit, and I can see there's a tiny little bit of the back petal that flips out the end there. All right, now the next part is I've got my basic structure of my daffodil. So what we're going to learn about now is how we can use our color, whether it be paint or pencils or texture. I know it's a bit harder with texture, but with pencils, it's quite easy to show intensity or saturation and value. So on my scale here, I've got lighter all the way through to darker. So intensity or saturation is how intense. If something is intense, it's really popping and showing out to you, whereas if it's not intense, it's really light. So I'm going to start light. I'm going to barely touch the paper. And I can see, you might not be able to see it very well, but I've got very light yellow there. And I've got 5 different sections there where I'm going to get more intense or saturate the color more. So the next box I'd expect to press a little bit heavier. Then of course the middle one, it's going to be even more saturated. The next step up again, I'm getting pretty heavy. And of course the last one, I can press pretty much as hard as my pencil will go and just go over and over until that color is fully saturated on my page. That one could probably be a little bit more, but you should be able to see the difference between the light intensity all the way through to total saturation of the color there. Now, in terms of the bottom section there, which is value. Value is all about, I guess it's very similar to intensity and saturation, but it talks more about light and dark in terms of black and shade. Lightly shaded in until you can see that it's getting darker a little bit. And then of course the next one, my value is going to increase a bit more, increase the value again. And then towards that 4th box, I'm gonna get darker again. So the yellow is pretty much not yellow anymore. It's kind of like a murky color. And then the last one, my value is gonna be quite dark, that the yellow is not so much yellow anymore, it's nearly black. But you can see the value has changed from very light all the way through to a lot darker there. So you should see here that I have got less saturation here in the petals because they were quite light. And in the center here, I've gone heavier and more saturated with my color. And I've even added a little bit of light orange in as well to try and give some of that definition with the shadows there. But I'm just going to use my water on my brush now just to blend all that pencil in. Now another technique you can use is you can get your pencil and dip it in the water, straight into the cup of water, and let it soak in a bit of a swish for a few seconds, and then I can draw straight on there and add even more sort of intense color. I have to keep dipping it in to soften the lead a little bit. And it sort of acts like a bit like a paint stick. Now, when it comes to adding some value, it's a bit easy to control when the pencil's dry. With watercolor paints or watercolor pencils, you have to be very, very careful with adding dark colors like blacks and browns, because once you put it on, you cannot take it away. So very lightly, I can add in some little faint lines. I'm barely touching the daffodil there. You can already see that there's quite a bit of black there. Now it looks a little bit funny, but I'm just wanting to add a little bit of value. And I can add some in the centers of the petals too. Doesn't look like much at the moment, but I promise you it will look better once I get my brush. Okay, so my watercolor is dry. I cheated and used my hairdryer to quickly dry it off. You have to be very careful if you're going to use a hairdryer, because you have to make sure that there's no puddles of water on the page. Otherwise, when you turn the hairdryer on, it's just going to go and spread everywhere. Otherwise, you can be patient and just let it naturally dry, or if you just use colored pencils or grey lead or texture, then you don't have to worry about letting it dry. So the final step is I'm using my fine liner pen just to add some definition to the parts of my daffodil.
So here is my finished daffodil picture. Remember, you can use whatever you have got available at home. It's pretty flexible, this activity, but the main focus for this task is how to use intensity or saturation using your colors or your grey lead, and how to use value, how light or dark something is. And then focusing on drawing the actual object. Remember, it's like a game of tennis. Bounce the ball back and forth. So like drawing, bounce your eyes back and forth between your drawing and the object that you are drawing, and compare it and see if it's the same. Have a go at drawing the daffodils. Remember, you can pause the video to have a look at the pictures of the daffodils that I've taken, and you can choose your most favorite one, or if you've got some flowers at home, you can have a go at drawing those too. I can't wait to see what your daffodil pictures look like, and I hope you enjoy your art session. I'll catch you next time. Bye.